Hey everyone, it's Adriana Monique Alvarez, and I'm so excited to be coming live with you today to talk with another contributor in the Uncensored, Untamed, Unleashed book. Hi, Alicia, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So, why don't you take a minute and share a little bit about yourself and your business? What do you love most about it?
Okay. Well, my name is Alicia Cramer. I have been a business mindset coach for over a decade. I'm sometimes referred to as the go-to hypnotherapist for entrepreneurs. So I've been around the block for a while. Um, I love working with business people. Business people are my people. so, but one of the things that has been kind of my motivator. We get into the work that we do because we're passionate about it. And I have been an aspiring entrepreneur for, geez, my entire adult life.
Mm.
And it was not an easy road for me by any means. I had so many limiting beliefs, so many issues that were constantly creating friction for me and failure and money problems and you name it. And when I was doing when I started to do this work as a hypnotherapist and I'm working with all of these incredible business people and I'm seeing so many people bump up against the same type of challenges. They want to do their thing and they're getting in their own way. And I know how painful that is to feel so passionate about something and wonder why am I not more successful? Why am I struggling like this? Why does this seem like it's just not working? You know, does the universe not support me in this? Am I unlovable? Am I unworthy? All of these different things that go on in our head, and it's all just this old conditioning. And so my passion is to help people who are really inspired to just be doing their thing, to get out of their own way so that they can have that success and the happiness and the fulfillment and be doing the work that they are meant to do on this planet.
Mm. So good. Now, I know in another conversation that we've had, you had mentioned about how you probably wouldn't have like been voted like the most likely to succeed in your family or upbringing. How did you overcome your past or where you came from in order to get to where you are?
It was an ongoing process for sure. It certainly did not happen overnight. Although I will say that when I started to work on my inner game, so all of the mindset stuff. So obviously, I got into hypnosis because I had an experience with hypnosis that was very empowering for me. But I also had an EFT practice before I had my hypnotherapy practice. So I've been using a lot of different modalities over the years to work through all of those limiting beliefs.
Mm.
But it's not just about fixing.
Mm.
We can get really hung up on trying to fix everything that we think is wrong with us. And we're putting our focus in the wrong place. So we have to also, and I will always tell my clients, you need to spend more time focusing on what you want to create and being in, and I can use this language here in this crowd because they get it, being in the vibration
Yeah.
of what it is that you want to create. When you're so, I say, fixated on fixing, um, you're not in the right vibration. You're not in the vibration of creating what you want. You're not in the vibration of creating success or happiness or fulfillment. You're in the vibration of, I'm not good enough. I'm not right. This is wrong. I'm broken. And that doesn't create success.
Mm.
So for me, it became a process of finding that balance, focusing on filling my mind with the right types of things to keep propelling me forward towards what it is that I aspire to create for myself, appreciating what I have in life so that I can be present and actually enjoy what I'm creating.
Mm.
And as I always say, anybody who hangs around me long enough, they're going to hear it so many times, right? Is when you're focused on where you're going, you are going to bump up against your stuff. It's just naturally going to happen. That's when you do the inner work and you deal with it. So 90% of the time, be focused on what you want to create and filling yourself up with all of those good, positive, high vibrations. But don't make the mistake of thinking that when you bump up against your stuff, oh, I'll just push it away. I'll just push it away. It doesn't work, because once that's triggered, well, it's going to keep pulling you down. It's going to, and the more you push, and it keeps pulling at you. And then before you know it, you've gotten way off of your positive momentum trajectory. And now you're actually starting to build negative momentum, where if you would have just said, okay, something got triggered here, let's deal with it properly and actually release and let it go, instead of trying to repress or push it or positive talk it away, which does not work. Clean it up, get rid of it, and then refocus and get back on the positive.
Mm. So good. Yeah, it's true, because we can. I was in a class and they were talking about this addiction to looking for what's wrong, looking for what needs fixed, looking at what we're not happy with. And then before you know it, all of your energy is there. So tell me, what are you writing about in your chapter?
So what I just shared.
I had a feeling.
And it really does break down. You've got to get really, really, really clear on that high vibrational stuff. Um, a lot of people talk about getting clear on your why. And I hear people say it verbatim sometimes. They hear it so many times it's coming right out of their mouth, but they're not doing it.
Mm.
So we do have to take that time to have a really, really serious heart to heart with ourselves and get really clear on what it is that we want to create for ourselves and why. Because if we don't really lock into that mentally, emotionally, and vibrationally, I'm doing a program. It's called the Money Mindset Intensive, and I just recorded a piece of content for that talks about this, about how you have to have that. You have to really lock into that, because it's kind of like being out in the ocean. I mean, literally miles and miles and miles of ocean all around you. You need something to hang on to keep yourself afloat, because you're not going to be able to keep yourself afloat for very long before you physically run out of energy. And having that clarity within ourselves it's like our life raft. When things get challenging, when we bump up against our old resistance, when we encounter our old fears, doubts, and insecurities, most people do not have the conditioning built in from their upbringing to support the type of success that they really are feeling called to create for themselves. And so we have to set ourselves up for success, because if you just jump out there and you don't have that thing to hold on to keep you afloat, it's going to be just way too hard when you start encountering all of the resistance from internal as well as external.
Mm. And let's talk about that for a second, because there's been plenty of external stuff added to the mix in the last couple of years. So, what do you see as being the most important thing for people heading into the next year? We're going from, this hasn't been a short term, oh, it's a sprint of change, a sprint of disruption, a sprint of whatever. We're heading into 2 years with no change really on the horizon. What would you say is necessary in order anchor yourself to be able to stay clear on who you are and what you're here to do, no matter what's going on around us.
What we have to remember is that throughout history, whenever there is some type of disruptive event like this, there are always people who thrive in spite of it. When the masses are in fear and panicking and they're lowering their vibration and they're giving into their fears, and they're giving up on their dreams, there are people who are saying, I'm not going to do that. And that's an inner game. And there are always people, there are always businesses, there are always individuals who come out better than they were before, in spite of what is going on in the economy. That's a decision, though. And
Mm.
so you've got to make that decision for yourself. Am I going to allow myself to give in to the collective fear? Because that's not going to help you to achieve your goals. I promise you that. Or am I going to, put on my big person pants and I'm going to do what I need to do to succeed, to thrive? And that does not mean that you are doing anything that is harming anyone else. To the contrary, we need more people to step up and be the light, because there is so much fear, so much negativity. We've got to just rise above that, and it's going to take a bunch of really courageous people to do that and to say, I love, honor, and respect myself enough to step up and say yes to myself, because I know that I'm the creator of my life, my reality, and circumstances do not dictate who I am choosing to be.
Mm. So true. And you touched on something in there. This is something that I've witnessed. It's like it's an overall feeling, but also you can see examples of it if you just look in your family, your friends, your clients. It kind of seem ridiculous to dream when everything around us is saying, "Oh my goodness, but the sky is falling and it's all so horrible." And yet there are always going to be people who dream bigger in these times, right? So, what for that person who almost feels like, "Oh my goodness, is it okay for me to keep dreaming? Is it okay for me to just literally fly above all of this?" What would you say to that person?
So, this is such a common challenge for people as they are up leveling anyway. And you've got to remember that you keeping yourself small, you keeping yourself limited is not helping anyone. So when we stop and really think about this in a more like rational way, we can see with a lot of clarity and discernment that you're not really doing anyone any favors.
Mm.
So I think sometimes people have this idea in their head that if they become successful, if they're pursuing their passion, their dreams, that it's like they have to be rubbing people's nose in it, or they have to be hard selling people to their way of thinking. And nothing could be further from the truth. So you think about it on a really practical level. If someone is really depressed, maybe they had a loss, and another person is just an empowered, loving individual. Okay. Does it really serve the depressed person for them to be like, oh, can't be happy anymore. I've got to go be depressed with this other person? No, of course not. But they are also not saying, hey, you just had this bad thing happen. Turn that frown upside down, friend, right? It's not like that. They're just being a loving, kind, compassionate person without lowering their vibration. And that's way more of a gift to the other person than going down into a deep, dark place with them. You can't help them there. But if you can hold the space of all is well, everything's okay, you're not trying to force anything on them. You're not even trying to change them, right? We're not forcing our agenda on anyone by being successful. We're just being a better version of ourselves.
So good. So good. So tell me, what are you focused on personally in the new year? How are you flying above this? How are you taking yourself to that highest place, the highest version of you?
A lot of the same things that I've always been doing. A lot of just working on being even more of my full potential. Because I know that as I do my inner work, as I raise my vibration, as I continue to strive for a higher level of consciousness within myself, learn and improve my own skills, it is of benefit to everyone. It's funny because I was just talking with a friend the other day about how, sometimes because she had asked me the question about, sometimes when you're talking so much, do you ever think to yourself, oh, I might need to bring my language down a little bit so people, understand where you're coming from? Because when you're talking about energy and consciousness and things like that, not everybody's always at that place yet. And I was joking with her and I said, well, that language is so common around my household. The other day, my 12-year-old son accidentally spilled some candle wax on his carpeting. And I asked him, what vibration were you in? And, but that couldn't happen if I wasn't just always, up leveling myself, not trying to project anything onto anyone, not even my own children, but just being a better version of myself and bringing that awareness to my clients and to my family, and just being a nicer, better person, because God knows we all need more kindness, more compassion. We need people to slow down and be more courteous, less road rage, less people angry at the grocery store, less people mean to the servers, just being a better version of ourselves and always striving to continue to improve who we are being and be more of our full potential.
Yes, absolutely. Is there anything that you're leaving in this year that won't be moving with you? This could be anything, anything that you just feel like, you know what, this is where we leave it. Anything that you're retiring in 2021?
I've had a number of awarenesses this year about limiting beliefs that I was still holding on to. And some of them were big ones. And just, it is what it is. You can't change the past, but I'm done with it.
Yes.
And so there have been quite a few, and I still, well, it's middle of November. I may have more. So
There's still time.
there's still time to identify more things that can be just left where they're at, and it is what it is. And a lot of that does have to do with up leveling and putting myself out there in a bigger way. So for a long time, I had gained quite a bit of momentum in my business. I've been doing this, like I said, for over a decade. So, I got a lot of exposure and publicity, and I was interviewed by Forbes and some really, really cool things. And then I just kind of pulled back a little bit. And I still was working with my clients and, doing my thing and just kind of letting everything just coast without as much, just putting myself out there, and recognizing that that was an unaddressed insecurity within me. And so this year has been about dropping a lot of that stuff and saying, get back in the game. People aren't, not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. You've mostly made peace with that, but you're going to have to up level that thinking as well, because the more that you put yourself out there, the more possibility to piss people off. And that has to be okay if you're going to do your work. And I'm sure that there are probably people who are listening to this right now, they're letting that hold them back. And one of the things that, any business mentor is going to teach you is you got to have thick skin. Sometimes it's easier said than done. But if you really want to get out there in a bigger way and do your thing and help more people, you've got to be willing to take the heat sometimes.
Oh, isn't that the truth? This is such a big one. It is oftentimes so hard for us to realize, oh my gosh, everybody doesn't like me. Everybody doesn't agree with everything that I say and do. And it is, when you say it out loud, it's like, well, yes, of course. But when it happens, it is a tough one to swallow. It takes a minute to digest it. So I think you're right. I think this seems to be one that also you face and address, and then it circles back around.
Mm-hmm.
Circles back around.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those common themes. And over the many years that I've been working with clients, I've heard it so many times. I've dealt with this already, but I did so much work on this. And I always explain, every time you up level, you are entering a new place that you have not been before. And when that happens, you've got to drop any old stuff that does not fit who you are becoming. So you cleared away enough of it to get to the level you were at. And now when you up level again, more of that stuff is going to come to the surface, and it doesn't feel good. And it sometimes is one of those like, oh man, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to retreat. But I encourage anyone going through that right now, it is a good thing. I promise you, it is a good thing. It would not be happening if it wasn't time for you to release and let it go. You have to let it go in order to get to the level that you are feeling called to get to. It's just, it's not a vibrational match.
There you go.
To who you are becoming, and you've got to let it go. But once you get on the other side of that, oh man, I mean, then you move into exactly what it is that you were praying for, you were desiring with your whole heart and soul. But it's usually a little tricky when you're right there, when you're bumping up against it, and you've just got to have enough courage, enough faith, enough stamina, right? That's why I said you've got to have your why's got to be really, really clear, because you need something to hold on to when you start to encounter that resistance. And the more someone up levels, the bigger they're willing to allow themselves to be, the more you're going to bump up against those things. And it does get easier in many respects, because once you've gone through it a few times, it's not the end of the world. It's just me bumping up against my old stuff. I've done it before. It feels really hard right now, but I will get through this. And when I do, I'm going to break through to that next level.
So good. How big will you allow yourself to be? I can't wait to read your chapter. And this book is coming out 12/12. And Alicia, where can people learn more about you?
My website is the best place to connect with me. It is aliciacramer.com.
Perfect. Well, until next time, here's to holding the line and keeping that vibration high. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Bye.